Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Joy and Gratitude. And I am here with my phenomenal co host, Miss Beth Mercurio. And Beth, what is our topic today?
Neo, our topic is why do we talk so much? Which is hysterical because we're doing a podcast. So obviously we like to talk, but I know we clearly like to talk. But if some of you listening who have heard my podcast before, I don't usually sound like this. So the irony of all ironies is we are talking about why we talk so much. And I am struggling with a little bit of bronchitis, which is making it hard to talk. So Neo, when we think about this topic, why do we talk so much? There's so many pieces of it. But this came from one of your amazing blogs, and I think I mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it again. For those of you that want more Neo in your life, which pretty much is everybody, she writes a blog, Joy Notes, and the topics are always so relevant, and they're every day, and they're quick little bites that you can just digest and take with you and think about in your moments of silence. So this came up, and I kind of loved it because it was around the importance of silence, and that talking sort of all the time and always having to have the first word and jumping in all the time is not necessarily the most effective way. And how can we use silence and how can we take action a little bit differently by not talking so much? So I'm going to throw it to you. I have a million things because I love the topic. And I know you had some that were really focused around sort of leadership and in the working environment. And then, as always, I have a lot too to add that like it doesn't really matter if working or not, as we usually talk about. We're all humans. So this topic is relevant for any and all of us. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and throw it over to Neo.
I love to, this is a topic that I love because it's one that I learned very early on in life. And I always saw speaking as a part of respect.
Mm.
And I viewed it as the respect of listening and understanding another person's perspective. And that means that you stay in stillness and you actually are present. And that was always very important to me as a child because I was a very curious learner. And that only happens when you stay still and you're listening. So I always saw speaking as a contributor. How am I making the conversation better? How am I asking questions so I can understand more? And who is it serving when I have something to say? And if we start there, then when we speak, we're speaking with intention and purpose.
Mm.
However, so many times we speak in nervousness. We speak in seeking acknowledgement. We speak in filling the gap. I had the opportunity in my career to be an expert witness. And the first thing that I learned from, they put the lawyers that you are hired by put you through training so that you know how to basically behave in a deposition and also to behave in court. And one of the most important things that they said, do not fill the gap. Stay in your peace, stay in your silence, answer the question, not a narrative.
Mm.
And we spend so much time over explaining, overstating, boasting in the need of filling the gap that we miss the point. All of a sudden, nobody's listening because the point's gone. So, why do we talk so much? Fear,
Mm.
need
Say
for
more
acknowledge.
about that. Say more about fear.
Yes. We are scared that if we are not babbling about our knowledge, capabilities,
Mm.
understanding, historical facts, yada, 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 that we're not going to be accepted, that we will not belong, that we will not be acknowledged. So we spend so much time filling this gap that does not need to be filled. Because one of the best rules of leadership or life is to listen and speak with value. So, you usually see the best leaders say so little. But when they do, what's the first thing you notice? They're quoted. It's memorable. So that's the whole thing with speaking is it's really your opportunity to make an impact. And
Mm.
it's simple.
I love that. And I'll be honest, one of the things you said that I think is so relevant is the filler, the gap, fill the gap. I kind of want to say mind the gap as like a little mantra in my
Hmm.
head now. Cute because I love England. So mind the gap. It's like, oh, this gap. I have I mean, I've been through lots of training, presentations, and that I use filler words quite a bit. I'm sure everybody listening to the podcast hears me use them. I use the word like, and I use this one that's really interesting. I'm really trying to break, and it's really hard, which is right. So right with a question mark. And now that I brought it to your attention, everyone's going to hear me say like and right all the time. But I am intentionally trying to remove those because they're just not necessary. And I have gotten a lot of feedback that they sort of, as you mentioned, they're distracting. They don't let the if your main point is solid and you're not worried that it's not going to land and you're just confident and you land that point without going right, like it lands with the value that you want it to land with. It lands with your whatever you believe to be true. So, whatever you're bringing to the table, your truth, your opinion, your feedback, all of those things will land as you intend them to. And the minute you add the question, it's almost as if, truthfully, I'm asking for validation right in that moment,
Hmm.
which speaks to everything that you just said. So the filler words that we all use are perfect examples. And I'm certainly going to try to take this mind to the gap to go, wait a minute, the silence is the impact. I love this idea that you're actually diminishing impact by speaking over yourself, let
Yeah.
alone someone else. Like I speak over myself by asking, right? Using the word like so many times. And I love this conversation because there is so much that we can do if we, and it does come back to listening, if we listen and we slow down. And even, I've gotten really good at it in breath work because I lead people through breath work. And I have a physical, people know me, I go 100 miles an hour pretty much in all things that I do. So it's a real practice for me to slow down. And honestly, I'm so honored when people comment on my breath work and they say, the way in which you led me through that was really incredible. I felt so peaceful. And I still giggle when people will say, like, you're so calm and peaceful. And I giggle because I'm like, really? On the inside, I'm still having to self-talk to slow myself down. But whenever I do that, and it's mostly right now currently happening in breath work, but even now, I don't know if you just noticed, I'm noticing that I have slowed my speech down
Yeah.
just as we're talking because I'm a little bit more tuned into my body, which is calm. Like I don't need to run around and race around. And when I do that, I feel very uh, like the pace is appreciated. So
Hmm.
the other piece of this is I don't think people love the race of speech, the overtalk, the all of that is almost supporting the world we're in, which is the rat race, the current speed. And so I do think people are craving this ability to be more still, to be more choiceful, to create impact, even through our speech and how we share energy. Um,
That
yeah, this is great.
No, you are so on point. And I've had the privilege to do breath work with you. And I have always saw it as, oh my gosh, this is her calm. This is her space, that she is truly at her best because you do such a beautiful job in helping me find that calm. But what I have learned is when I am speaking, especially in a meeting in crowds, and even now with my family, I want to bring the calm into the conversation. So I tend to do pregnant pauses on purpose.
Mm.
And it's also just like you said that you were tuning into yourself. My pregnant pauses happen because I'm tuning into myself and understanding that if I race in the conversation, the point's going to be lost. And understanding that the reason we go into that chaos mode, that we have so much to say, yet we say nothing at all,
Mm.
is because we are afraid of missing the opportunity to be heard. Yet we create the opposite. People tune us out. And I learned, you know, I started learning that speaking and timing has been something that has always been, I don't know why. I truly don't know why, but it's always been very important to me. I remember being a young consultant and I was at a conference and I had to do booth work. And so, which is the most painful, horrendous thing they could do to any human being. You know, you sit at a booth and you have the joy of having people stop by that do not want to talk to you, but what they want
Yes.
is the shashkis that are at your table.
Yes.
But your job is to, because your boss is looking in the back, is to engage those people that have no interest in talking to you because all they want is the crap that's on your table. And I remember I said, I got my elevator speech. I could do this in 2.5 seconds and they're going to hear it whether they like it or not. And I remember this older man comes up to the booth and I knew, and he had his bag open, right? So I knew where he was
Oh,
going. He had a bag open. And he comes up to the booth and he starts taking things. And I said, hello. And I start and I said, I'm Neo. And da 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 da. And he said to me, my, you sure speak fast.
see.
And I said, I'm sorry. And I learned that moment. Here it is, 30 years since that moment. That moment, I learned how speech, speed,
Mm.
pace, tone
Yes.
made a difference. He toned it down. He brought the temperature down.
Mm.
He brought everything into control respectfully. And he taught that 20 something year old how to respect him back.
Mm.
And it changed the whole conference for me. I
Yes.
basically started talking to people. Hi, how are you? Are you interested in what we do? It was a whole different mood.
Yes. And one of the things that you're saying that is so poignant is as you describe that story, truthfully, right? It was about you. Like
Hmm.
you were uncomfortable. You needed to like get your spiel done so that you could get through it. And this idea of value, and we talk a lot about this certainly in our circles of coaching, like we live in service to others. We believe, most of us should find our purpose and passion and live our lives in service to others. I think when we step back and really pause in conversation with whoever we're in, this question of or mind the gap, comma, why? Why am I about to talk? Because with my voice being as it is, yesterday I had the really amazing and unique opportunity to we're doing an oral history with my dad. And we're asking him lots of questions about his life. For those of you that have been listening or watching for a while, my dad's health is tenuous. So he's really excited to share and download with us his life. So my daughter Lila and I went, my sister, my mother, we were all around him as he was sharing a bit of an oral history. And I, I had so many instincts, like where I wanted to jump
Hmm.
in. And because my voice was so raspy, I didn't really want to be on the recording. I was like, this is the recording for many, many generations. Like, just don't, what is it? And it made me do the why. Like, why are you wanting to jump in? What is it that you're going to add? This is clearly, there's probably no better example of somebody else's story than their own personal history. Like, there's nothing I could really add except, which is exactly where we started this conversation. I'm loving this moment so much, the natural organic flow to this place. If you are mindfully listening, there are questions, not additive. Let me add my story to your story. That's not impact, but questions that show you are so deeply listening that you want to enhance the story. So if there was really something I needed to ask, it might have been, can you share the name of that person?
Hmm.
I know you mentioned it's your, great great grandfather. Can you just let us know what his name is so that we would have that? So it was adding to the history, but only those kinds of things were really driving value. And everything else was just me, trying to get into a story, which was really telling. And I didn't do it because I wasn't feeling well and I didn't want to impact the story. But I think the beauty is, and maybe this can be the challenge to our listeners, was because I was in this voice uh, restricted place, I had to really think about when I spoke, and how do we get into a practice of this little islet. I'm going to take the mantra, mind the gap, and in the gap, ask yourself, why am I talking? And if you can catch yourself in the moment of realizing, because I want to belong, very natural, totally natural to want to belong, to be a part of it, to want to show your value in some way. But if that's where it's coming from, then just as you mentioned, you're actually just taking away from the other person's story, which is ultimately what we always talk about is connection. And if you are fully engaged and listening and at a pace that shows them you are all in, you are driving an enhanced connection that you cannot get by overriding. And I really feel like the timing of this is so, I just can't even believe what happened yesterday and that I had to live feeling it in my body, that desire to want to jump, but not do it. And if we could all do that a little bit more, I think the depth of conversation and connection would be incredibly enhanced.
Yeah. That's powerful, what you just stated, because that's the essence of it. It really is about listening. What is the value of what I'm going to say? What is the impact? How am I making the situation better? How am I celebrating that story? Because, yes, we do need acknowledgement, but we also need to let our story be told. And, you know, we have to stop what I always call, and I've said it before on the podcast, the double dutch.
Yes.
You have to understand that make your voice be heard for purpose and impact, not as a filler, not for your ego, not to your acknowledgement. If you're in the room, you already belong there.
I love that. And I guess I'll just double down, double dutch, double down. I'm going to double down.
We're doubling.
I'm doubling. I'm going to double down on the pace because I'm really curious. I'm curious too. I'm going to go back and listen to this podcast and count how many times I said like and right. I'm pretty sure I didn't say it very much.
You
It's
did it.
like I just did it there. Like,
No, it doesn't
just,
count. Doesn't
but
count.
okay, it doesn't count. But
No.
but it shows me how you can do it. You just have to slow down and create the gap understand the gap. And instead of letting that gap get overridden, we override all the time. Just actually look at it at this place of, I can hold this space and create impact. That's exciting to me. That's a whole new world of being in connection with people. I cannot wait to really use this mantra to help me to slow down and get rid of those filler words and just be in a place of connection and impact.
It just feels good. It
It
really
does.
does. It just feels good. It's communicating. It's communicating authentically.
Mm,
And I know that word that's thrown around a million times and so on, but reality is you have no agenda in your communication. Your agenda is to really exchange, connect, deliver value. That is not any preconceived notion. That's nothing. That's being. You know, we have to just get back to simple humanity.
yes.
It's just like, understand, you don't have to be transformative or anything new. You just have to be a human being.
And see each other and
Yeah,
hear each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple because we just deserve to be ourselves and connect beautifully, letting the flow of the communication happen,
Mm,
listening, taking it in, and then expressing your point. With that, there's just one song that is the perfect song for this conversation. And I used it in the blog, and it remains You Talk Too Much by Joe Jones. And there's another one that I need to throw in there, and that's Empty Words by Death.
mm,
And what that means is basically stop throwing words around when maybe you just need to be silent.
mm.
So let's see
Yes.
what we have with some gratitude rocks.
Here we go. Okay.
Oh,
Yep.
pretty.
It's a cobalt blue. I can't remember. I think we might have had this
Yeah, I
before.
think we have.
Yeah, the word is beauty. And I have a couple things that are coming to mind, but the one that I will share is that my father, who I just mentioned, which feels really relevant because I just talked about him, he chose a few words. He was very specific in that he wanted to participate in Gratitude Rocks by adding his own words. And beauty is one of my dad's words. So I think that it just feels really relevant as we talk about oral history and communication and sharing our stories. I mean, that's just a very literal example of the power of our stories. And the only way we hear each other's stories is when we mind the gap and we show up and we listen.
Let our beauty shine as we mind our gap, speak and flow
Mm.
with joy and gratitude. See you next time.